everyone, we are live. It took a second there. And we're a few minutes late, which I apologize for. I'm slow these days for obvious reasons. I am back here with Nicki, and we're going to have another genre talk. But before we get into all of that, as I've not been around so much, maybe Nicki, you should introduce yourself for all the new people joining our stream now or in the archive.
Yeah, hi everyone. So as Alina said, my name is Nicki. I'm an author and editor, and we're here today to talk about horror, mystery and thriller, which should be good fun.
Should be. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Alina. I'm a fiction writer, and I post content about books and writing, obviously, because that's what I do, and that's what I'm passionate about. And I can't talk today at all. I can't express myself at all, which is like great for an author. Shows great promise. Again, for those of you out of the loop, I've recently, meaning in August, broke my leg, had surgery. I'm still recovering. It's fun. So if I'm not my usual self, I apologize. But, you know, I'm here. I'm happy we're having this conversation now because I kind of look forward to it. I've prepared a stack of mysteries. Then I realized that most of my mysteries are no longer in my own private library. They're somewhere else around the house. So it's a smaller stack than I could have pulled out, but hopping around the entire house on a crutch, carrying books. Not great. Not great. That's Alice. That's my dog. So yeah, he's going to probably move around a bit because that's what he does on every stream. Okay, so should we get started? Should we jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm really trying to focus, and my brain is like, no. Okay, Alice is here to fill in for me. So you tell them, what's your favorite mystery? Is your favorite mystery where Mom hid your carrots? Is that it? Yeah. Okay.
Is he a lassie fan? Is Timmy down the well?
Nah, he wouldn't bother. I mean, if one of his carrots dropped down the well, probably he'll try to tell someone. Or if his ball got stuck under the bed. That too. He makes sure we get it. So yeah. All right. Let's start with something fun. Which was your first mystery ever?
I have to be honest and say that today's categories, you'll probably have a lot more to talk about than I do. They're not big categories for me. And as with some other topics we've discussed, such as sci-fi, I tend to watch more than I read in things like mysteries and thrillers. I mean, I read a huge amount of horror in my early teens and then kind of went off it.
Okay. That is great. It's great because I'm severely lacking in the horror department.
Right. So we'll fill in each other's gaps. I mean, in terms of the mysteries, probably the first ones I read that would be called real mysteries were the Sherlock Holmes stories and also the Daphne du Maurier novels. So I started with Rebecca, as most people do, and I went on and read Jamaica Inn and several of the others as well. Rebecca is a huge favourite of mine. I'll probably talk about it more when we get to films and things later as well. Yeah. And more recently, I read an occasional thriller or mystery. It just depends. Sometimes my mother's quite into those psychological thrillers, girl on the train kind of stuff. So occasionally she passes one on to me, and it's not something I'd pick up myself, but if I end up getting a copy, I'll read them. The only ones I've really gone out of the way to read myself are the Stieg Larsson Millennium Trilogy. Oh yeah. Which I came to after watching the Swedish film, like TV film versions. So I do enjoy those, but I've never really been an Agatha Christie, that sort of mystery kind of girl. And yeah, I know Alina's a fan. And of course, Alina will have more to say as well shortly about the cozy mysteries, which I've not really gotten into so much either. So what about you?
Okay, so first of all, while we were talking, I realized I no longer own the Millennium Trilogy because I lost them in a breakup.
Oh.
they stayed back. And I also kind of lost my Charlene Harris HarperCollins series, which is kind of a paranormal mystery.
Yep.
And I'm kind of sad inside now. Because I no longer own them.
Terrible feelings, Alina.
Yeah, I no longer own those books. But yeah, my first mysteries were Agatha Christie. I remember buying them with my mom. This was around secondary school and high school. No, sorry. My dog almost completely destroyed everything here with my crutches. So I had to jump. Sorry. This might happen again because I have these implements near me and my dog has a way of bumping into them and making sure they hit where they can hurt the most. The miracles of live broadcasting, people. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's where I started, and I kind of went back and forth between different styles of mysteries and thrillers, and then I started watching a lot more, and then I got back into reading them, and I think I've kind of set them aside until last year at some point. First through the Rainbow Awards, because I selected mysteries as a category. I was a judge on the Rainbow Awards. And then Spookathon happened. And the whole premise of Spookathon is to read thrillers. So I started reading those, but I'm still kind of more into the mystery side than the thriller side. I like that too, but I really like the sleuthing and detecting and whatever.
The investigation side of things more. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always like a challenge. If it's a good mystery, I won't pick up on the murderer early on. And sometimes even if I pick up on it, I have to kind of be distracted and suspect someone else. Otherwise, it's not the greatest mystery for me.
Yeah.
So now I've been reading quite a few of them, and I blame Claire for this the most. ClaireCounter.com, everyone. You should go there if you like mysteries. Because I started reading her Charlie Davis series. No, I'm lying. The first mystery of hers that I read was Live and Let Bondi when it first came out, like ages ago, a year ago. I read that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I thought, let's read the first book in the Charlie Davis series. Nothing bad can happen, right? It's just a book I'm reading. And then 9 books later, and a novella later, and another book in the Baxter & Co. mysteries, the second after Live and Let Bondi. Yeah, definitely nothing bad can happen. You just, invest your entire time for reading in one series, and then you continue to search for new mysteries. So right now, I've read 4 books this month already, and I think 2 or 3 of them, no, 2 of them were mysteries, and I'm on my 3rd for the month. So yeah, I mean, it's a mix of a thriller and mystery. I've read a domestic thriller, like the kind where there's a family involved or a relationship and one of the spouses is either killed or disappears. I read that. It was interesting. I caught on pretty early on certain aspects, but it was still an interesting read. And this one that I'm reading now, I think you would enjoy, Nicki. It's the female sleuth is an English teacher.
Oh, right.
And the murder victim was another English teacher. So it's pretty interesting because the murder victim was into all these Shakespeare conspiracies.
Okay.
And she was a firm believer in the fact that Shakespeare did not write his works. So that's interesting. It's a pretty interesting mystery, actually. And it kind of makes sense. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. Horror, though, I have a problem with horror in all forms. And the problem is that I'm a scaredy cat and it terrifies me. But I think my first horror-ish kind of book was Frankenstein. If we're still considering that horror, it's mild. And I've seen horror movies of different categories. It didn't go well. My first one was with a family stranded in a blizzard, and there were wolves trying to kill them, like literally get into the house and eat them. I had a fever that night. I was a child. I ran a high fever that night. That's how well it went. So since then, I have to really prepare myself if I want to see anything scary. It took a lot of will and strength to watch The Ring. And then like weeks of preparation to see the Loki movie. What's it called? I forget. There was a horror recently. I can't remember anything. I can't remember the actor's actual name. It'll come to you
in a minute. It'll come to you.
I can't remember the actor's name other than the fact that he played Loki, and I can't remember the movie, which is great.
So Tom Hiddleston. Yep, you're talking about Marvel Loki. So yeah. Tom Hiddleston. Yeah. So are you talking Crimson Peak?
Yes, Crimson Peak. That's it. Thank you.
See, I don't think of that one as a horror. It took me a second to kind of get where you were going. I was thinking Tom Hiddleston. Of
course, it's a horror.
I kind of call it gothic romance, but
that's horror for me. That's like my top, like uppermost level of horror that I can enjoy. The rest is a struggle to watch. In terms of reading, I do better. Like I do actually have a horror here. Like I have to show you. Huh?
Oh yes, yeah.
It's paranormal. I did not buy it for myself, obviously. It was a present. That's why I own a horror book. But that's a good one. Has some connection to Romania. It wasn't intentional. The person who bought it didn't know about it. It just turned out to be the one Clive Barker book where some Romanian stuff is mentioned.
Yeah, I mean the ring's actually quite interesting because I read a lot of horror when I was probably around 11 to 13. So starting off with the point horror, you know, the teenage series.
You were really brave.
I was so brave then, and I read all the classic Stephen King's back then too. And then I kind of went off it because I got onto, as we've discussed before on these streams, reading all the classics from Penguin Classics, 6 for £5, which was like my dream at the time. So many books for so little money. And so I didn't go off horror as such. I still watched the odd thing on TV. But then I saw The Ring, and I actually went to the cinema and saw the American remake first. And I really loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah. And so I thought, I've got to see the original Japanese one. And so I got it on DVD. Oh my God, how scary was that? The American one, nothing. I think the problem was they showed you too much in the American one. There's nothing to your imagination. They showed you all the twisted bodies and whatever. And we put the Japanese one on, and I was so petrified. And I had a TV in my room, in my bedroom, back in my parents' house, and I could not sleep. And I had to throw like blankets over it to like and that kind of ruined horror for me. After that, I suddenly got really squeamish about horror, and I'll watch stuff now, like stuff like the Crimson Peak, the Guillermo del Toro style horror. That doesn't worry me. And I don't mind psychological horror. So, I mean, when we talk about films later, things like Split.
That works.
I don't like that. I don't like that slashery stuff like Saw. That just doesn't appeal to me.
I think if it's more on the thriller side, I'll watch it. No problem.
Yeah. I mean, I love Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon.
Books
and films. I love those.
But I don't know why. I consider those more on the thriller side than the horror side.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
I mean, it's the same for Seven. Seven completely broke me the first time I saw it. I was a teenager, and I was like, I sat there in my chair after it was over, and I think I cried for like half an hour. It was my first experience of that sort. So the first movie of that kind, and you see Seven. Great. And then I rewatched it and I loved it. But yeah, I don't consider that to be horror.
No, but no, not full on. No, it's more, as you say, more of a thriller side of things.
And by the way, speaking of the Ring, I was a student there at the time. So I was studying journalism, and I was like, "Oh, this would be like a nice movie to show in an investigative journalism class because she's doing a fine job." I think that's why I went through the horror of seeing it because journalist, nice. I loved it. Okay, sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. I mean, I guess we've kind of moved a little bit onto films and that. So, and I'd say I probably watch more than I read in all the categories we're discussing today, sort of horror, mystery, and thriller. I do like classic horror still, so I don't mind stuff like The Exorcist, The Omen, those older style films. And I do like one thing I absolutely adore: The Woman in Black. Now, I'm actually talking mostly about the theatre here. Now, it's based on a story by Susan Hall, who writes a lot of short fiction ghost stories. And they did a film version with Daniel Radcliffe more recently. But it was originally known best as a stage adaptation. It's been playing in London continuously for, I actually don't know how many years now. It's a very long-running play. And they do the whole play with 2 actors playing the parts. And it is so spooky. I think I've seen it live in London 4 or 5 times. Wow. And even though I know what's going to happen, every time he reaches for that damn door handle and the lights go off and there's the scream, I jump like a mile out of my seat, even though I know it's going to happen now. It's incredibly spooky. And the film version was okay, but you don't quite get that same atmosphere as you do in the theatre. But I mean, I really enjoy that piece. I think that's such a clever piece.
I think I would enjoy that, but I'd be scared out of my mind. So
yeah, it's kind of a ghost story, but it's a bit of a mystery as well. It's not like a full-on horror in some ways.
Makes sense.
And obviously, we talked about Rebecca earlier. I do love that 1940s Rebecca with Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier. And if I'm watching these days stuff that's in the mystery thriller, it tends to be Nordic. It tends to be the Nordic noir stuff that attracts me more than, say, British mysteries and things. I saw, I'll probably pronounce this terribly, Swedish, Jordshot, which there's been 2 seasons so far. And it's a sort of murder mystery, but with a paranormal twist, which is quite clever. Things like the Department Q films that have been coming out, starring Nicola Likas, have been good. And all the sort of Trapped was a really good one. That was an Icelandic one. And they were in this village and they're snowed in with a murderer. So I tend to quite enjoy those because, as you were saying earlier, with the American stuff, I tend to guess a lot of it in advance. Whereas the Nordic ones do tend to keep me guessing. They're really good at not revealing exactly what's going on too early.
Yeah, I've seen some Nordic ones that are absolutely mind-blowing. I have been watching some. I mean, I do watch mostly mystery and thriller on Netflix when I watch them. I've recently watched an Australian series, actually, Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, which are cozies in like the 1920s, and I absolutely adore that. I do enjoy British like crime series a lot more than the American ones. Yeah. The only one I was still watching was Criminal Minds because it's such a different perspective. And I mean, I watch them a lot, but now I also read them a lot. And I love them in any form. I watched this anime series that was all about a serial killer and a sort of a paranormal twist for the main character who goes back in time to try to save a girl who gets kidnapped and killed when they were in elementary school. I don't know, they were 7 or 8, something like that. And I love that. But yeah, I have been reading a lot more mysteries and writing them, which is weird. But it's a passion I've rediscovered started last year. And I still love the Agatha Christie type of mystery. I do enjoy guessing a lot. but I also enjoy the more modern takes on the cozy genre, because the female investigators authors come up with are freaking awesome and interesting. And I prefer either they be completely contemporary stuff, no paranormal, or if they're paranormal, it should be fully paranormal, not someone who has premonitions, like not magical realism. That kind of puts me off a bit, but I can go through it if I have to. Hi Dorothea, thanks for joining us. Hope you're enjoying the stream so far, whatever you've caught of it. I'm not exactly sure because we're a little delayed between when we speak and when the comments pop up. So yeah, it's been interesting, because I feel like in the past year and a half I've delved into a lot more genres than my usual, because there was a point in time where all I read was sci-fi and gay romance of all kinds, but it tended to be more contemporary and paranormal romance. And I kind of wanted to branch out of it. And I started last year by choosing more unusual stuff like the mysteries for Rainbow Awards. And I just kept expanding like that.
Yeah.
I continue to read sci-fi. I can't stop. But I went back to fantasy again, and mystery and thriller and everything I could get my hands on, basically.
And do you have any tropes that you like or dislike? I mean, I have to say I'm getting a bit tired of all these psychological thrillers with the missing wife, or, you know, the disappearing girl kind of thing. There just seem to be so many all along that theme now.
Yes, there are quite a few, which annoys me. I mean, it depends on how it's done. If it's done nicely, I like it. If I can pretty much figure out someone's not dead, even then, it depends on how it's done and what's the reasoning behind it. And sometimes it's just not that believable. I love murder mysteries, and I like missing persons cases. But I need there to be a twist. I mean, I'm writing a missing persons mystery at this point in time, and it's the person who's. I mean, everybody knows they're missing. It's not a that big of a deal. It's just a reason for certain characters to get together and not communicate well at all. But I think I do not like the very obvious murderer. So the husband did it, and the wife did it, and it's never the butler, is it?
Actually, that one cozy mystery I read the other month that I mentioned to you, the butler did it. I won't tell you what book it is, people, because I don't want to like ruin the story for you. But there was a cozy mystery I read the other month in which the butler did it.
Finally, the butler did it. I'm so happy. Yeah. But I mean, I like the more. I mean, when it's the husband or something, I want there to be a more interesting reason than, oh, you know, just it was for the money. I got more devious stuff going on. That would make me happy. Which is, I know I'm weird. I like situations that make you think, and it's not just clear cut like, oh, they're evil and they're killing everybody because they're evil. I've read books like that and I did not enjoy them terribly.
Yeah, I think that's why I've always loved Hannibal Lecter as a character, because to me, there's not much wrong with HannibalLecter. You know, he's cultured, apart from eating people. It's a minor detail, Alina. He's cultured, he speaks languages, he plays the harpsichord, for goodness sake. He'd take you to the opera, he'd take you to fine dining. He's a perfect boyfriend. Yeah. And yeah, the eating people, okay, but you know, everyone has faults.
It's not just eating people. It's not just eating people. He'd sneak them up in your food and make you eat them. That's the more horrifying thing, like, you know.
But that's what I liked about him, because he's not like a typical you know, the typical moustache twirling villain kind, you know.
Yeah.
You can't, there are redeeming qualities about him and things that you can't help but like about him. And I mean, you know, I'm a huge fan of the TV series that NBC did. And I just loved that relationship between Will Graham and Hannibal in that, and the way that developed through the 3 seasons. And I just thought that was perfect, because I thought that's exactly right. You know, there are a lot of attractive qualities about this guy, even though he's this cold-blooded killer on the other hand. And so I do enjoy that. I like to be able to understand, like, I mean, this is marginally off topic, but not in some ways. Take Thanos in the Infinity War. He's the villain, but we can understand his motives, and he thinks he's doing a good thing. You know, he's not just out to dominate the world, or, you know, he thinks he's doing something that's actually going to help the universe, even though no one else agrees with him.
Yeah, and that's something that's really important for me. It's like why I love Naomi Novik so much.
Yeah.
Because you get these characters which you think are like evil and, you know, on the wrong side of things, and then it gets so complicated. Complicated. And I find that absolutely enthralling. Sure, there are people who are just off their rockers and do bad things, but I mean, I need there to be some sort of believable quality to them.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're just maniacs, how did they survive in society until they reached 40 without, you know, murdering everyone? There should be some likability about them. That's it. Which and I really like it. I really like it when those on the side of the good, let's say, are like total assholes. Like, I love that. I mean, take Adam Baxter from Claire series. He's this super mega genius. He's also gorgeous, but he's a total asshole. Like, he can make people cry in like 2 minutes flat, which is freaking cool. I like that. And her main character, like Charlie Davis, she obviously has issues. She's obviously not the kindest person you've ever met, but, you know, she's still awesome. She's still awesome, but she's not perfect. I don't like that, like the cookie cutter characters.
I know what you mean. You don't want the good guys to be so unbelievably perfect and the bad guys just to be all out evil. Yeah, you want them all to seem normal.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think Hercule Poirot, he was kind of a weirdo. So, and even he got distracted at points, you know, by beautiful women and whatever. So, you know, that's the bit of humanity I need to believe the book and buy the premise. That's what I like. And I find that there are a lot of mysteries being written to be character driven and not mystery driven. But then the characters are not that interesting. Because I can deal with that. It can be a mild mystery, but I should at least like the characters. If I dislike them, and by like I don't mean, no, like is the wrong word. Enjoy them. Because they can be very unlikable and I would still enjoy them. But if they're just, I don't know, walking tropes. It annoys me a bit. Kind of annoys me a bit. So that's it. Other than that, I don't. There's not much I don't like. I like random murders and serial murders and burglaries and, you know.
We should put a disclaimer on this. Alina is speaking as a reader and an author. She's not actually saying she supports any criminal activity.
Yeah, I don't. And another thing I really enjoy is that the criminals get caught. I hate it when they go free. I know it happens a lot, but I don't want them to go free. It's why I will never watch Japanese horror. Because evil wins in the end, in a lot of them. And I can't deal with that. I mean, I can go through 2 hours of crippling fear if there's a positive ending. No. I'm sorry. It's just how it is, because I don't want to. I mean, I'm a scaredy cat, and the idea of people doing really awful things and then going free for a long, long time, that doesn't help with my being a scaredy cat. I mean, I can sit through an entire series for them to get caught. That's fine, but they should be caught at some point. And also, I don't mind minor cliffhangers in mysteries, like if it's a connecting series and at the end the overarching mystery is brought in and you get a little tidbit that one makes you want to jump into the next book. I really don't mind that at all. At all. It's perfectly fine with me. I enjoy it. So yeah. Basically, now I'm thinking back of everything I've said. And it pretty much boils down to nothing really bothers me as long as it's well done.
Yeah.
but I went into this 15 minutes explanation just to say that. Okay. So anything
giving the
you
viewers
really
their money's
dislike?
worth.
Yeah. Anything you really dislike about mysteries or things that you really must have?
I guess, I mean, I do get annoyed if I can guess what the denouement's going to be too early.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like to kind of test myself and try to work them out.
Yeah.
But I expect to be able to get at least 3/4 of the way through the book before I can really be sure I'm right.
Yeah. Or
it does bore me if within 3 chapters I'm pretty much worked out.
I mean, I don't mind if I pick up on something and then I just space out the clues as I read.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. But it shouldn't be completely obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in terms of
you can be like, I suspect she did it, but then you need to confirm that. I mean, it should be just a suspicion because that happens. Like if you read enough mysteries, it's almost impossible not to get a hint.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess in terms of things I like, I mean, I think one of the reasons I've not got into the cozies is because if I'm going to watch a psychological thriller or a mystery, I like it to be fairly dark, which is probably why the Nordic noir stuff tends to appeal to me, and the Hannibal Lecters and things like that, because I do like it to be a bit dark. I particularly like it if the villain is actually a really attractive guy. Because it's my bad boy complex coming out again.
Yeah.
But there's just something like where you kind of want to like the bad guy. I have a little bad guy thing, just don't ignore me. I mean, I'm trying to think, what was the one I watched? I've watched a few recently where that's been the case. The Fall, was it? I think it's The Fall I'm thinking of with Gillian Anderson. I think so. Yeah. So I liked him.
With a really pretty guy.
Yeah. So I like ones like that.
Wasn't that the one with the guy from 50 Shades?
Yes, I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking Dornan, something like that is the surname. Maybe making up. But
I don't remember all the names, but I remember the connections between movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, finally he did something to prove he's a good actor. 50 Shades. I actually
haven't watched any of those films, just as I haven't read more than a few chapters of the book.
It's the kind of train wreck you just need to see. Of course, I did not go to the cinema for these movies.
No.
But I just wanted to see how bad it can get. I mean, I can get through the movies. I could not get through the books. I stopped with the first one. I was
I guess I also I do like a kick-ass heroine as well, like Elizabeth Salander, like from the Millennium Trilogy.
Yeah, I adored her. I could not watch the American version. Like I couldn't. I saw the trailer. I saw the trailer. I saw what they did with her, and I was like, I'm not watching this. No, you don't turn her into an emo kid. Like, no. Nuh-uh. Thank you. No.
And the Swedish ones were so brilliant. You didn't really need to redo it. But no, I loved her, and I wanted to be a hacker when I read those books. I was like, I want to be a hacker. But again, no criminal activity, people.
Yeah. Nope. You can be a white hat hacker, so
that's
fine.
That's true. So yeah, that, I mean, as I said, I don't watch masses, but those are probably the things that would appeal to me. A sort of handsome killer who I kind of like, even though he's a bad guy, a kick-ass heroine, and something a little bit darker on the psychological side of things.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like them going dark. But, you know, even with cozies, it can be dark. The problem is that you can't show like really gruesome murder scenes, but it can be a very dark and psychological thing going on. I mean, I'm thinking of Midsummer Murders, which are not cozies, but again, they don't show the body much.
No.
And even Miss Fisher's murder mysteries, they get super dark. But, you know, there's no showing of that and no swearing, and that's about it. Which is fine. I enjoy those. I do like them dark, though, as long as I said they're solved in the end.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when they're light on the mystery and the characters are kind of not that interesting, then I'm lost. Like, I'm not sticking around. I need one of the two. Either a gripping mystery or characters that I want to spend time with.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. So yeah. But thinking of what I read, very few of them are cozies. Like not really cozy, like almost cozy, but not really, because gruesome murders and swearing, which would be like any book by Claire Cowter.
Yes.
For example. Because, I mean, I know she's working on some cozies now, and I'm really looking forward to see how she pulls that off, because she tends to go a bit dark. I mean, at some point there was a severed head on the female investigator's stairs, like front steps. So how do you go from that to cozy? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. So yeah. What's next on our little list? Sorry, I got lost a bit.
That's okay. Well, it depends. If you feel we've kind of covered things we like, I mean, we can talk about our own works a little bit and then go on to current trends and things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, my own is probably pretty light. I mean, the first ever story I had published was Awaken to the Night, which was a vampire short story, which I guess you would call a horror. It was just a little tiny story. I've never really gone in for writing full-out horror. And in terms of mystery, I think the trouble I have with mystery, which is something I was discussing with Alina recently, is that I'm not a plotter. And I think to really do a mystery well, you do have to know exactly what's going to be happening so you can set things up. And I've got one book that actually just got contracted a few months ago, which will be coming out next year, which I think we're actually going to change the title because the title's Sanguis Est in Aeternum, and my editor thinks that Latin might be a bit much. So I think we're changing it to Once Forever, which is the translation. And that one is a paranormal romance. However, there is a murder mystery, a serial killer in the story.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're trying to solve the murder, and that's how the two leads that have the romance come together. So for that one, I actually did have to plot a lot more than I ever have before, and I had to actually make a timeline of when do the murders occur, because they all occur at set times during the month and things. And that's not something I usually do, and I did have to do it a little bit for that. But because that's not generally the way I write, I think that in some ways makes it difficult for me to do that style of book, because you do kind of have to know where you can't just make it up as you go along like I usually do. Like I usually know where the story begins, roughly how it's going to end, and I make the middle up as I go along.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't think that as much.
It depends a bit, because in my case, I know who I'm investigating. I know what the crime is. I know who did it in the end. But other than that, I'm just playing it by ear.
Right.
A bit. But yeah, the major mystery, I know what it's about. Again, it's a missing person. It's a missing person case, and it's more the situation that's appealing than the actual mystery, because my protagonist has to locate his ex-boyfriend at the request of his previous ex-boyfriend, who's also responsible for his relationship ending. His his ex-boyfriend is friends with his ex-boyfriend. They're best friends. And that was one of the major reasons they broke up eventually.
Right.
So now he has to look for his ex-boyfriend, and also investigate the current boyfriend, obviously, who the ex-boyfriend doesn't get along with. Shocker. So, in the middle of all this, he's got a new hire, who's a guy he knew from high school, who he's offered the job to at their high school reunion when he was drunk out of his mind. It's a very interesting situation. So that's kind of fun to write. It's interesting, but again, that's not yet really heavy on the mystery, because this will be the first in a series, and it's more about putting him in a really awful situation.
Yes. Yeah.
And just seeing things unfold. And seeing him deal with his curse, because his curse is that whenever somebody lies to him, he finds out.
Right.
He finds out the truth. And people say it's a gift. He says it's a curse, because, when you find your boyfriend screwing someone else in your bed, not much of a gift, is it? So that's how I'm going about it. I do have plans for quite a few mysteries. I have an entire series that's called Post-Scarcity Blues, and it explores sort of crimes committed in a post-scarcity society. And the main theme is that boredom is quite dangerous for humans, because when they're bored and they're not really threatened by anything, they get into very dubious activities. So, but that's a different sort of beast, because there's a lot of research going into it. Luckily for me, Isaac Arthur filmed and posted on YouTube an entire series on post-scarcity societies, but that has to be planned pretty well in terms of world building and technology, not the mysteries themselves. But that will be fun, because it will let me go dark as hell for no other reasons that people are really bored.
And are you still doing your comic mystery with MA?
That's the one I'm writing, the all investigation one. With the missing boyfriend.
Oh, right, that's part of that one. Right.
That's the one. Because it's kind of like more of a situational comedy, and the way the characters interact. And the employee he didn't want, who's this guy he knew in high school and who he used to tutor, but who wouldn't talk to him outside of tutoring. And now he's hitting on him. So it's weird. It's weird all around, and I'm enjoying that. But I'm probably also working on 2 separate cozies, series. I haven't started them, but I have serious plans, and you know more about that because I've given you some hints. So lots of mystery in my future, and at the same time, I'm working on a witch series that's paranormal. Has some gruesome murders. Now that I think about it, there is kind of something going on in almost everything I've written, because the vampire series. Book 3 is a bloodbath. There are some really nefarious things happening in book 2 as well, and book 1. Oh, great! I'm awful. There's a lot of things to solve in the paranormal romance, like the werewolf books.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's stuff going on. In the second one, at least, there are assassination attempts and everything. So, maybe this is a normal progression. Maybe. I mean, in my sci-fi chronicle, they're starting an uprising. So, yeah. Okay,
so
maybe I'm just
a happy, fun time.
I mean, if it's labeled romance, there is a happy ending. If it's not labeled romance, there might be a happy ending eventually, after tons of people die. that's pretty much how I go about it these days. So yeah, it's weird realizing that. Oh yeah, and I also want to write a serial killer book that I've mentioned before. It's called The Big Bad Wolf. Yeah, that would be like the darkest thing I ever write, probably. Hopefully. I mean, there should be a point of no trespassing anymore, because then I'll come to talk about it on YouTube and it will be flagged for, I don't know, extreme violence. I don't know. That could happen. Thank you, Dorothea. Yeah, he's here all the time. He just didn't make it in my, immediate vicinity when I was filming from my bed. That's all. Oh God, yeah. So, do you plan to expand into this series? Like, did you enjoy? I know it's different for you, but did you enjoy the more plotty part enough to continue writing mysteries or thrillers, or maybe even horror?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see myself writing all-out horror. Stephen King style horror. I mean, I like to go to slightly darker places sometimes, and I think this one, the Sangue Sistine Eternum, is a little bit darker. Yeah. And my editor, when she sent me the contract, she said she really loved it, and I'm hoping readers will too. But I actually tested this one on my husband, and when I first started writing, I used to read a lot of my stuff to him. Then he got busy with work, and so I stopped doing it a bit. But this one, I did make a point of asking him to find time to sit and listen to it, because I needed his opinion on one of the characters, because I was concerned that readers were not going to like this guy. And I mean, we're using the word like again, but in the sense that are they going to appreciate the character?
Yeah, I get it.
He did. He said he thought it worked and it was okay. But one of the characters is slightly darker than some I've written before. And I quite enjoyed doing that. And I quite like having tortured heroes and anti-heroes as opposed to people being happy. So, I mean, I've got about 4 works on the go at the moment, one of which will be a nice, happy, fun one. But all the other 3 have slightly darker elements. And some of them, they're not going to require the amount of plotting that I did for this one, but 1 or 2 of them might require a small amount. But I find it difficult to work like that, because I do like to just organically see where I end up. And usually I know the characters well and they just take me where they want to go. So I don't see myself ever doing a real full-on principal focus mystery. But I certainly might include some elements like I did with this book again in the future, depending on what I'm writing.
I can't wait for that, to be honest. I'm enjoying myself, to be honest. It's an interesting outlet to go dark with your writing and not have people complain about it. Because when you do it in romance, let's all remember Angel's Feather and how people took some of the things in that book. When you go really dark in romance, it can get a bit tricky. I'm still going to do it. And I think it kind of I'm trying to balance it out and write more humorous stuff, like the humor mystery series that I'm writing. But I also kind of rarely don't go at least angsty in what I write, because the most tame thing I'm writing now is a pretty straightforward gay romance series of novellas, but even that's super angsty. I think I have one sweet book, and that's Travel and Spice. I think that's the sweetest I've ever gone. And it was so out of character that people noticed. So I'm thinking that thriller and mystery are a good fit for me. Maybe horror in one day. For the time being, I'm saving all my horror points to read Sarah's books, like Sarah Starnweb. She writes really interesting horror. It's tough for me to swallow sometimes because it is kind of scary. But if you start with her short stories, it might be a nice way to lean into it. And also be horrified and kind of enchanted at the same time. She has a very interesting Bigfoot story that kind of made me smile. And then some really horrific serial killer families.
Right.
God, Nice mix. Nice mix, Sarah. Keep it up. I'll do my best to keep reading. I mean, it's not like that I don't enjoy the stories. I think they're clever. It just they're scaring the life out of me. Yeah. Okay. We're talking trends, right?
Yeah.
So
well, we've already discussed cozy mysteries, which do seem to be a growing area.
Oh yeah, they are, and the cartoony style covers for them
with the little cats. I love the little cats.
Oh yeah,
So
I love it. Yeah, they have cats, or I mean the
dogs sometimes.
Or something. Yeah, there's always something, and I love those covers, and I like that mystery covers are kind of like very clean, nice fonts, and some elements, but not a lot of character presence on the covers. At least for I mean, when you get into like romance mysteries, it gets a bit different.
Yes.
But even there, I like the simplicity of the covers a lot. And for horror, I think it's kind of the same. You kind of have the ambiance sort of cover.
Yeah.
With bold and usually red or something like that on the title, so that they convey atmosphere.
Yes.
But I think the mystery trend, the mystery genre is kind of growing a lot lately, especially in the cozies. But the rest as well. I think the cozies kind of opened the door to more general mysteries. Like the crime fiction, like the detective stories, those were always doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah, and obviously there's more and more of the Nordic noir books as well as the TV series, the Joe Nesbo and the like. And Joe Nesbo, I mean, obviously The Snowman was made into the American movie with Michael Fassbender, which is why I know it. Sorry, as well. But yeah, all that Scandi crime and Nordic noir.
That's getting big, but that's been getting bigger
and bigger
for
a while.
Years now.
But I noticed they're kind of spreading out a lot. There was a lot of Swedish, Norwegian writers initially, but I'm seeing more translation of Icelandic writers in recent years as well. They're kind of like spreading the net a little bit wider. I think it was predominantly Swedish then Norwegian at the start, and it's kind of spreading a little bit more now.
Yeah, it is, and it's pretty interesting. I've seen a Swedish French one at some point. I forget what the name of the series was.
It was a series on Netflix.
Yeah, I think so.
I saw that one. Yeah,
that was fascinating. I love that. And I like these crossovers, and I like that there's a lot more focus on Europe as the backdrop of everything. And I think I'm going to try to replicate like the Midsummer Murders sort of atmosphere in a US small town, like the small town where nothing bad happens and then all the criminals seem to live there and everybody murders everybody. That's what I'm going to play with. But I'm also going to kind of maybe stick to Europe. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing, but there will be an element of mystery for Europe in the future. And I like that there's a trend for that. So it's fun to capitalize on. Australia is doing really well, though, in terms of mystery. I've seen quite a few Australian authors that are doing really great.
Yeah, it seems to be, as you say, coming up on TV a bit more with original Australian series, whereas it used to be a lot of just the US, UK stuff. You mentioned Miss Fisher. There was also one that's been on, done a couple of seasons called Glitch, which was kind of a paranormal mystery.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I've seen one.
People coming back to life kind of thing.
One of the actors in Spartacus was a supporting character in a detective story set in Australia. It had like 4 or 5 episodes per season. And it was like countryside Australia, something like that. Okay, or no, it was New Zealand. It was New Zealand. I'm an idiot. Okay. It was New Zealand. And that was quite interesting. Again, pretty dark a bit on the murder side. I really enjoy that. But yeah, they're coming out from all over, and I'm really enjoying that. And they're becoming more mainstream, which means Netflix mostly.
Yes.
And some HBO Go, some, from what I've seen. I've seen one that was Indian, I think. But it was kind of a paranormal thing more than... It was a bit thriller, but more paranormal and really weird.
I think I know the one you mean, and I'm trying to think of the title.
It was something...
Half something, was it? Is that the one?
Yeah, I don't know. It was something with books being banned and whatever. Some books being banned and burned. Like, really weird. I should probably search for it.
It'll come to you at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, I love that there are mysteries and interesting things coming from all over the world, which is a really nice trend now that Netflix exists.
Yes. Yeah, they have been very good at doing foreign language content. And I mean, I moan over here because we pay the same amount for Netflix as America, but we get like half as much stuff. So many times Americans go to me, oh, but it's on Netflix. It's like, well, it might be on Netflix for you. Don't get it in Australia.
Yeah,
so,
I've never compared that because I don't know how to compare that. I mean, I've never asked anyone what they watch on Netflix. And the shows I've seen mentioned are like the really big ones.
So that everyone gets them. So I do notice sometimes I see people going, oh, well, such and such is on Netflix. And when I look, it's like, well, not in Australia. But there has been some good, as you say, some good content coming from other countries, like original Netflix stuff lately. I've watched a few things. There seems to be a bit of a trend towards more of that, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, I like getting content that's so varied in books and in movies and in TV series. It's really interesting. And I think it's worth watching these trends. And I mean, if we get into the nitty-gritty of it, when a certain genre is really popular on TV, books in that genre will also get some visibility. It happens.
Yeah.
It's the truth, and that's fine. It's great. I think this will bring light to a lot of genres that people tend to overlook or not branch out into because it's not, contemporary romance or YA thriller. I don't know.
I mean, I keep seeing so many books lately that are billed as, read this if you liked Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, And I think having done the movies of those books as well, as you say, gives it even more attention. And there's a lot of books coming out in that vein lately as well. And they're all, if you read this, if you loved this one, and that became really huge.
Speaking of trends, because we're talking genres, I've heard, I think I've heard that on Sell More Books or a podcast done from Brian from Sell More Books. He was talking about those sales pitches, like if you like X and Y, you like Z. He said sometimes going with like thrilling mysteries or high-paced adventures or things like that works better than just using the names of a book or a show.
Yeah. I actually had to for my recent release, that superhero story, I had to tell my publisher what I thought this book was like, and I was honestly at a bit of a loss. So I was like, well, it's like my book. I couldn't think. I couldn't think. I was like desperately trying to think, and I was like, well, I can think of maybe TV shows and that it's like, but I was really struggling to come up with a book title of what it was like, which they wanted for their new promotional push, trying to go a bit more mainstream with the gay romance. But I so struggled with that because I was just like, well, I can't think of like one or two books that is like my book, and hopefully none of them are because it's original. Yeah.
I mean, they have common tropes anyway, like you can find them. But that's why I don't really put names of other books. It's like comedic mystery would work well better than if you liked, I don't know what series you like, all investigations.
Yeah.
Because this assumes your readers have heard of that series. If they haven't, they might consider whether they like it or not. So yeah, it's apparently from a sales point of view, it's better to go with the general tropes or genres than a name of a book. But that can be a good marketing strategy too. I mean, they both work. It just depends, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess it works better if you know that the one you're comparing it to is so famous that even if people haven't read it, they'll like. I mean, I haven't read or seen Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, film, books, none of them, but I know roughly what they're about because they've been so promoted and are around so much that.
True, but sometimes I think it can backfire. Yeah, because I'm thinking of Red Rising now.
Oh yes.
Which was kind of likened to Hunger Games and some others. And I was like, if I would have seen this sales pitch for the book, I wouldn't have bought it.
Right.
The only reason I bought it is because someone whose opinion I trusted said, you should read this. And I did.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's closer in atmosphere and what it explores to Dune and books like that than it would be to the, I don't know, Maze Runner and the newer ones. Plus, I know it's been branded as a YA book, but to me, that's not YA.
Right.
I mean, if you strictly think of the age of the character, he is 16 at the beginning of the first book. I think he's already an adult by book 2 anyway.
Right.
But in context, at 16, he had a family, he was working in a mine, and other people his age had kids. So how is that YA?
It's not like the high school experience.
No. And I think the issues discussed there and the whole philosophical thing behind it might not appeal to someone who's read, I don't know, The Hunger Games.
Sure.
But again, that's just a personal opinion. Although I've heard a lot of booktubers saying that it doesn't feel YA.
Right.
Because it's not. Probably that's why. But yeah. So we kind of digressed into sci-fi from the trend on mystery and thrillers. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to leave them after the stream is over. We do usually go back and check. But this is about it. Oh yeah, anything in this mystery thriller horror section of the, I don't know, creative arts that you're looking forward to in the future, something that's about to come out?
I don't think so. I mean, book-wise, I don't, because I don't read a lot. I don't tend to keep a huge eye on it. And I mean, in terms of things like thriller and that, I usually just go on what's coming out in we have a yearly film festival, Nordic Film Festival.
Oh, nice.
So, it's actually, our city cinema is very good. We get a French one each year, a German one, Italian, all through the year. The Italian's just been on, I think it's just finishing, and the British one's coming later this month.
So cool.
So it's great. And I always look at, that always has recent movies, like either from the current year or the year before that weren't there for the last one. And we have a channel here, SBS, that shows a huge amount of foreign language content. So that's where they show things like The Bridge and all the TV series, Nordic Noir, and some films. So most of the stuff I tend to see on there, which means I'm seeing it a little bit later. Usually it's a few years on since it was put out, 2 or 3 years difference. So I don't think there's anything really major at the moment that I'm planning to watch, but certainly it's just if something comes up that catches my eye, and usually at the moment that is Nordic stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of cheating there because I never know what's coming up, and I was hoping you knew. But
I do tend to. It's funny. I do tend to know quite a lot of what's coming up in cinema, and I was just, as you were asking me the question, I was going through my head because I do tend to know what films are coming out in the next few months, but none of the ones that are really on my radar fall into our categories.
Wait. I think they're doing a sequel to Split, right?
I hadn't heard about that. It could be. I haven't heard anything.
I mean, it's in the same world. It's not exactly a sequel. It's in the same world, and they're kind of tying it up to the little cameo at the end.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
I'm trying not to spoil if people haven't seen it. But yeah, apparently they're doing something with that, and there will be a new movie. Which
that would interest me, because I really enjoyed Split. I thought that was very clever, and I thought James McAvoy was brilliant. The way he did all those characters, and just you could tell which one he was at any time, even if he wasn't dressed appropriately, just by like a little eyebrow quirk or something. He really had like some brilliant mannerisms down for them.
Yeah. And in terms of recommendations, I just remembered I've actually seen a horror series recently.
Oh yes.
And I'm really pleased with myself. It's called Ghost Wars.
Right.
There are a lot of, it's kind of supernatural, sci-fi, techie, whatever. It happens on an island. Some scientists run an experiment, and then ghosts can't cross over anymore, and they're all angry and they're killing people. Okay. And it gets really dark. And it's freaking scary. That's a scary one. And I watched it. So it's on Netflix.
Well done. I'll have a look. I'll see if it's in Australian Netflix.
If it is, you should give it a try. It's quite interesting. Because it has some like really unlikable characters, and they're pretty fun to watch. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations for us, please share them. We're always looking forward to new books and new movies and things like that. And should we try and decide about what we're talking about next time and announce it? And
yes,
I
think we're up for we're doing modern classics and lit fic, literary fiction next time, and then we'll be back talking about holiday stories
in December. Next time it will be more like your
it'll
territory.
Be more like next time.
For the modern classics, I might be around for that conversation. Yeah. But when it comes to lit fic, I've kind of tuned out lately. I don't know. I'm not up to date.
I'll have to try and convince you on a few people.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always open to that. It's not a problem. I will try anything, because I kind of believe you should read across genres, at least to get a sense of things. Yeah. I'm not the kind of author that thinks I should only focus on the genres I write. Anyway, I write so many.
You pretty much write them all anyway, Alina.
Let's not spill the beans on that. But anyway, because we were just wrapping up trends, if you can stick to a genre, it helps. It's easier to market. It's easier to gain traction. If you can't stick to a genre, you'll have a tougher time, but it's fun and interesting. And I think we can both vouch for that it's still fun.
Neither of us are genre stickers, really.
Yeah, no. No, and the more I think about it, the less inclined I am to start new pen names. So it's like, hey, if you can't read the blurb, it's not my fault. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to only have a separate pen name if I ever write YA. So proceed at your own risk. You at least have two pen names. So you're nicer than me.
Yes.
you're somewhat nicer than me. I'm not. And I'll be honest, it's because I don't want to build 2 websites, 2 Twitter accounts, and whatever. I already have too many anyway. So
yeah. I mean, I may have 2 pen names, but I do it all under one website on one social media, because as you say, it would be ridiculous. I can barely keep up with everything with one of everything.
Yeah. And now we get into the fun part, and you'll understand why I say fun part when it's my turn. Let's promote stuff that's coming up in our lives.
Yes, so not masses for me. Obviously, I mentioned Sanguis Est in Aeternum, or what will probably be called Blood is Forever, which signed with 9 Star Press. I haven't got a date yet. It will be next year. I'm hoping in the next few months I'll get a firmer date from my editor. I'm actually hoping to do something a little bit transmedia with this one, which is going to depend a bit on when the release date ends up being. So I'll keep you all posted on my own channel on that as stuff develops. And before that, the only other thing I have contracted and coming out is a Christmas story from Dream Spinner Press as part of their Advent calendar, which is gay romance contemporary short set here in Australia. And
awesome.
that one will be out on the 1st of December. So when we talk holiday stories in December on our Drama Talk, I'll be able to tell you a bit more about it.
That's awesome. Wait, I wanted to ask something. Oh yeah, you should also plug your new endeavor into the cooking world.
Yes, just a very brief background. My husband used to work shifts, and he's more of a cook than I am. I'll bake cakes, but I don't cook dinners, never have. And he's now just changed job, at least for a year, possibly longer. And he now works Monday to Friday, officially 9 to 5, but he never gets out on time. So I've had to take over cooking the weekday meals, which has been a bit of a thing because I really hate it. And I have a little blog where I'm doing weekly updates telling you about what I've been cooking and how I got on. So if anyone wants to look at that, it's called journalofareluctantcook.blogspot.com.
If you can PM me the link, I'll add it in the description.
Alina will add it in.
So
that's it.
that you can have it there. I have gotten nothing in terms of books. I was supposed to have a pre-order launched by now for Flyer Uprising. I haven't because of the 4 projects I'm currently writing. Flyer Uprising is the hardest for me to write. Basically, it's because my character is freaking angry with everything. Samantha is kind of angry with the world and everything. And that's not the best ever, how do you call it, frame of mind to be in. Because, I still have some issues with how long it took for me to recover things that came up. So not the best mental space to be in, so I kind of am avoiding it. But if everything goes as planned, I might have some of the gay romance novellas out this year, probably 3. And I might have the first Owl Investigations book, which is called Find a Man, Don't Settle Down. And that might be out at the end of December, if I can get it all done.
Good luck.
In other news, I did launch a new Instagram account. It's called Alina vs. Art. And if nothing goes wrong, the YouTube channel will be launched today with a little intro.
Excellent.
And I've been working on that for a long time. Well, no, I've been thinking about it for a long time. That's the best way to put it. And I have footage for it. I haven't edited anything though. So I'm thinking that I can edit a 2-minute video though. We'll see. It took me like a month to edit my bullet journal video. So that's it. If I do launch the channel today, you'll see a link in the description. If not, I'll announce it in my next video, which should be sometime next week. And probably it will be out because it's part of Project RightTube, and peer pressure. It always works for me for some reason. So that's it. Thanks for being here with me again, Nicki. By the way, heads up, next Genre Talk live stream will be on Nicki's channel. We will announce it earlier to the date we agree upon. It will be next month. That's all I can give you. And we'll see you then. And thanks again for being here. And have a lovely Sunday, what's left of it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.